Hi, folks, it's Mark Merrill with Farm with a special edition of Fairness in the Reporting Media about censorship. The following, folks, is a rewrite and a restoration of an original Firm podcast from January of 2023 titled Big Tech Censorship is Starting to Get on Our Nerves, all of them. The presentation is still vital today, in 2024, and critical to defeating the left-wing nut radicals of the Democratic political party, the mainstream media, overall corrupt and violent local, state, and national medias, if you don't mind, and the continuing threats against the United States and the world from the CCP, Iran, not to mention Russia, along with North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and some African continent countries under communist or dictator rules. Here's what I call part one of this revival of big tech censorship starting to get on our nerves. It's just plain bullying, folks. That's all it is. So how do we prevent it? Well, sometimes we got to use common sense. Something nobody seems to want to use on the left. Some of the rhinos want to throw it in the ditch and bury it and pretend it doesn't exist, just like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Parents, school staff, and other caring adults have a role to play in preventing bullying. What is it? Well, help kids understand bullying by talking about what bullying is and how to stand up to it safely. Tell kids bullying is unacceptable. Make sure kids know how to get help as well from a trusted adult. Keep the lines of communication open. Check in with kids often. Listen to them. Know their friends. Ask about school and understand their concerns. Never mind just their friends, folks. You better check out their parents. Yours truly has a lot to learn as far as left-wing radicals right in our own backyard here in Maine, and I plan to follow up on it. So stay tuned. Also, encourage kids to do what they love, special activities, interests, and hobbies that can boost confidence and help kids make friends and protect them from bullying behavior. And one last thing on this particular insert on bullying. We can give you a website link for it. Model how to treat others with kindness and respect. Stop the bashing, will you? Knock it off. As we get into it here, folks, I'm sure you recognize most of these elitists. Could call them a lot more worse names, but I won't in this particular case for time purposes. But this following revival of a report from January of 2023 are excerpts by author Ken Buck, and his published piece was originally titled Crushed, Big Tech's War on Free Speech. In case you missed it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, during the campaign of the 2020 U.S. presidential election, it seems Facebook, Meta, and Twitter, now X, at the time, prior to the Elon Musk buyout, were actively preventing potentially damaging New York Post reports about Hunter Biden. But a year later, after Sloppy Joe was in the Oval Office, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey finally admitted, of course after the fact, that the so-called hacking offense against the paper was non-existent and that silencing the New York Post was a mistake. Morons. You know what? They ought to be called terrorists. We on this program, folks, on Firm have already called them demigods, because that's what they think they are. If they're above the Constitution, and the Constitution is based on the foundation of the original fathers who signed it, the Declaration and the Constitution, then they must think they're above God. So, really? Pretty sordid group, if you ask me. I think one good missile would wipe them out in a few seconds. I don't have to tell you where. They all have one. Right up their backside. Sorry. Slipped out. No, intentionally. How desperate and dastardly can these people get, though, folks? As we go through just segments of the original big tech censorship starting to get on our nerves. A few blocks or maybe a few stones throw away in slimy Silicon Valley land, where some of these are from, and Google's priority of proprietary algorithmic relevance logic is defined as intrinsically exclusionary. What? Everybody got that now? Nah, I didn't think so. I still don't. This is like 2.5 years removed. So here's a common sense breakdown of this crap, folks. A proprietary algorithm is a sequence of steps or rules performed to achieve a specific goal belonging to a commercial company, as it has been trademarked or patented by its owner. An example is a search engine ranking algorithm for one of the commercial web search engines. Really? Oh, interesting. If only we could just get that algorithm and we could just, kind of destroy it. That'd be nice. And it says, Mr. Buck's research, some of the details may be readily available to the public about these algorithms, but the source code is not freely available to protect company interests and prevent misuse. Well, there's always Google search. Careful where you go. Watch the landmines. Misuse it, huh? Kind of like misinformation or disinformation getting into the wrong hands and causing problems in our society, folks, and possibly being used for undermining the United States rule of law? Probably not. But now in present day 2024, and the attempt on Donald Trump's life, and the new look of the Democratic leadership, replacing Joe Biden, Ms. Harris. Well, here's a real eye-opener, folks. Way back in good old 2018, yep, we're going back in history, recent history. Google reportedly found a news search on the term Trump revealed to them an overwhelming number of articles from left-of-center outlets. Page 1 included 2 links to CNN, CBS, The Atlantic publication, CNBC, and The New Yorker, and our dirty laundry partner Politico. They still are. But there were no right-leaning sites on the list. Can't understand why there were none showing up. And it appears that there were also a few targeted conservative politicians, for whom those people had their Facebook or Meta pages locked. So where is this all leading, you may ask, folks? Where is this all leading? Darn good question. I'm not too sure as to what the heck we're going to do, but I'm sure you've heard of this lady right here in her book, Words for Warriors, Sam Sorbo. It's a bestseller. You should look it up. It's good to have on your bookshelf, too. Or maybe in your office. Or maybe even go over with a few of the words in there for your children and other family members to stay in touch and abreast as to what the left is really talking about when it comes to climate change or global whatever. So hard not to figure out, though, folks, a relationship between big tech and the CCP isn't that it's just dandy and it fits their narrative. Kind of like the Bride of Chucky meets Freddy Krueger, isn't it? Except it's real life. Well, while this relationship between communist China and U.S. big tech is bubbling over to the all too familiar black kettle of doomsday and ultimate destruction of mankind as we know it, Mr. Buck, our writer, has advised us that even more recent Capitol Hill hearings that took place back in July of 2020, see, we're speaking back in 2018 right now, speaking to Apple.com CEO Tim Cook and Google's Sundar Pichai, couldn't even bring themselves to deny the existence of slave labor or forced labor involving many American business owners using the tactics to manufacture their products or services to be sold on the open market. It seems neither CEO could disavow the slave labor being used to fill their pockets to overflowing in slimy Silicon Valley. Mr. Buck reported when he asked both men about slave labor, they both stated only that slave labor, quote, would not be tolerated by their companies if it existed, unquote. You've got to be kidding me. Well, I guess the old verbal versions of the Texas two-step still exist when it comes to telling the truth, with fingers crossed behind their backs and on top of their ass at the same time, huh? In conclusion, folks, this revealing information brought by author Mr. Ken Buck, writing for Epoch Times at the time, facts abound and always seem to surface when it's never good timing for leftists to swear to Almighty God to tell the truth. Even in front of Congress, folks, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't. China's lip service against individual freedom of speech here in the U.S. is that the only issue that matters to them is that they, the CCP, are the state and ruling party over everyone else in the world. Really? I didn't know that. Another chilling part of Mr. Buck's discovery. It seems Apple CEO Tim Cook already knows about the well-documented reports of enforced labor camps in the Xinjiang region, where the CCP has approximately over 1 million members of the Muslim Uyghur population imprisoned. It's ongoing, folks. Nothing's stopped just because the media doesn't talk about it. Over 1 million still imprisoned. And has admitted to putting the detainees on production lines for their own good. Published in the New York Times, with this information of all places. That should make an Apple company like them, not to mention Google or Alphabet that rules them or runs them. All of those, not to mention the other woke corporations in this country with stockholders that buy their shares to threaten the existence of the United States that fills their pockets. Check that one out. Any of you who have investments in any of those corporations, be they media or not. Thank you for joining us for this special edition, folks, as we go back to look over the censorship of everything good in this country. It's just plain bullying. For more of our podcasts here on Firm, please go to rumble.com/fairnessmedia1. Also, as you can see, Twitter, YouTube, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Email us at fairnessandreportingmedia@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. Meantime, folks, stay safe and peace to everyone.